The stars were dying. Dr. Vex Hari pressed her six-fingered hands against the cold metal of the observation deck, watching another coalition fleet limp home from battle. Half the ships were gone. The other half looked like they had been chewed up and spat out by some massive beast, which, in a way, they had been. The Void Swarm was winning. Everyone knew it, even if nobody wanted to say it out loud. "Another defeat," said Commander Thax, his blue-scaled face grim as he joined her at the window. "The 7th Fleet is gone, completely gone. 3,000 ships, 500,000 crew members. The swarm didn't even slow down." Vex Hari nodded slowly. She had seen the reports. The Void Swarm consumed everything in their path. They turned whole planets into twisted biomechanical breeding grounds. Their ships looked like giant insects crossed with machines, and they seemed to grow stronger with each battle. "We've tried everything," Thex continued. "Our best weapons, our smartest tactics, our most advanced technology. Nothing works. They adapt too fast. They heal too quickly, and there are so many of them." The Zentorian scientist looked at the commander with her large golden eyes. "Not everything. We haven't tried learning from the dead." Thex made a sound that might have been a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "The dead don't fight wars, Doctor. Some species left things behind when they died. Weapons, knowledge, secrets. Things that might help us. We've been through every database, every archive. The Corvani left us their shield technology. The Threnodi gave us their energy weapons. The Ulari showed us how to build better engines. None of it matters against the swarm." Vex Hari turned away from the window. "What about the humans?" Thex's scales darkened, the way they did when he was uncomfortable. "The humans destroyed themselves almost 100 years ago. They were primitive, violent. They spent more time fighting each other than exploring space. Maybe, but they fought. Well, they lost? Did they?" Vex Hari walked to her workstation and called up a holographic display. Ancient human text scrolled past in several languages. "I've been studying their records. The humans didn't just lose to their artificial intelligence. Rebellion. They fought for 30 years. 30 years against machines that could think faster than them, build faster than them, and never got tired. And they still lost. But they lasted 30 years. How long have we been fighting the swarm? 2 years? And we're almost finished." Thex moved closer to look at the display. "What are you getting at, Doctor?" Vex Hari's fingers danced over the controls. New text appeared, marked with heavy encryption seals and warning labels. "I found something in the deepest part of the human archives, something called Project Lazarus." Lazarus? A human religious figure. Someone who came back from the dead. She highlighted several lines of text. The humans had a secret program. In their final war, they created enhanced soldiers. Super soldiers. The records are incomplete, but what I can read is impressive. Thex studied the display. His universal translator struggled with some of the technical terms, but he got the idea. Enhanced how? Genetic modification, cybernetic implants, nanotechnology. They pushed human biology beyond its normal limits. The test results show strength levels 10 times normal human baseline. Reaction times measured in microseconds. Healing abilities that could repair major injuries in hours instead of days. If these super soldiers were so powerful, why did humanity still lose? Because there weren't enough of them. The enhancement process killed 9 out of 10 volunteers. They only managed to create a few hundred enhanced soldiers before... Vex Hari paused, scrolling through more data. Before they put them to sleep. To sleep? Cryogenic suspension. The final human military command decided to freeze their best soldiers and hide them away. The records suggest they were waiting for a better time to wake them up and use them. Thex's scales shifted to a puzzled pattern. But humanity went extinct. No one ever woke them up. Exactly. Vex Hari looked at him with growing excitement. They might still be there. Still frozen. Still waiting. Doctor, even if these enhanced humans exist, they've been frozen for almost 90 years. The technology might have failed. They could be dead. Human cryogenic technology was very advanced for their time period. Their medical records show they could keep someone frozen for over a century without significant cellular damage. She pulled up star charts. The facility is on a planet called Kepler 442b. It's in the dead zone, far from any current space lanes. A frozen world in the middle of nowhere, containing the sleeping bodies of extinct super soldiers. Thex shook his head. Do you know how that sounds? It sounds like our only chance. Before Thex could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and the intercom crackled to life. All senior staff to the command center. Priority Alpha alert. The swarm has been detected in the Altair system. Vex Hari and Thex looked at each other. Altair was only 12 light-years away. If the swarm took that system, they would have a clear path to the Coalition's core worlds. They rushed to the command center, where dozens of officers were frantically working. At control stations, the main display showed a tactical map of nearby space. Red dots marked swarm positions, moving steadily toward Altair's populated planets. Admiral Corvash, the station commander, stood in the center of the chaos. Her 4 arms worked multiple control panels at once while she barked orders to her staff. "Admiral," Thex called out as they approached. "What's the situation?" Bad and getting worse. The swarm hit Altair with everything they have. 20,000 bioships, maybe more. Our forces in the system are outnumbered 50-1. What about reinforcements? We're sending everything we can, but it won't be enough. Even if we strip defenses from every other system, we don't have the numbers to match them. The Admiral's tentacles writhed with stress. At this rate, we'll lose Altair in 3 days. After that, they'll be at the gates of our capital worlds. Vex Hari stepped forward. "Admiral, I may have found something that could help." Corvash barely looked at her. "Doctor, unless you've discovered a way to multiply our fleet by 10, I don't have time for archaeological theories." The humans had enhanced soldiers, super soldiers. They might still be alive, frozen on a dead world. That got the Admiral's attention. She turned to face Vex Hari fully. "Explain." Vex Hari quickly summarized her findings. The Project Lazarus records, the enhanced humans, the hidden facility on Kepler 442b. She showed the Admiral the same data she had shared with Thex. "Enhanced soldiers," Corvash repeated slowly. "You're talking about a few hundred individuals, assuming they're still alive, against an enemy that fields millions of bioships. Admiral, we've tried everything else. Our weapons can't penetrate their armor. Our tactics can't match their coordination. Our technology can't keep up with their adaptation." Vex Hari's voice grew urgent. But humans were different. They were warriors. They understood conflict in ways we never had to learn. They also went extinct, because they faced an impossible enemy and kept fighting anyway, just like we're doing now. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical display. More red dots appeared as swarm reinforcements entered the Altair system. "Even if I wanted to authorize this mission, I can't spare the ships or personnel. Everything we have is needed for the defense of Altair. A small ship, a single stealth vessel, just enough to reach the planet and investigate. And if you're wrong, if there's nothing there but frozen corpses, we'll have wasted resources we can't afford to lose. And if I'm right, if these enhanced humans are everything their records claim, Admiral, we're losing this war. We're going to lose it completely unless we try something different." Corvash looked at the display again. The red dots were spreading like an infection across the star map. In the background, officers continued to report bad news. More ships lost, more colonies evacuated, more systems falling to the swarm. "One ship," the Admiral said finally. "One small stealth ship and a minimal crew. You have 72 hours to reach Kepler 442b, investigate, and report back. If you find nothing, you return immediately. And if we find something, then pray to whatever gods you believe in that it's enough to save us all." Vex Hari felt a mixture of excitement and terror. She might be about to wake up the greatest warriors in galactic history, or she might be about to disturb the peaceful rest of the dead. Either way, they would know soon enough. The planet Kepler 442b looked like a ball of ice floating in the darkness of space. No cities, no lights, no signs of life. Just endless white plains and frozen oceans under a dim red sun. "Sensor sweep complete," reported Lieutenant Zara from the pilot's seat. I'm picking up artificial structures buried under the northern ice cap, depth of approximately 2 kilometers. Dr. Vex Hari studied the readings on her scanner. That matches the coordinates from the human records. The facility should be directly below us. Should be? Commander Thex looked uncomfortable. He had volunteered to lead the mission, but Vex Hari could tell he still doubted they would find anything useful. The facility was designed to survive nuclear bombardment and remain hidden for centuries. If it's still intact, we'll need to dig down to reach it. And if it's not intact, then we go home and watch the coalition fall to the swarm. They landed their stealth ship on the ice and began the excavation process. Their equipment melted through the frozen water, creating a tunnel that descended deep into the planet's crust. The work was slow and dangerous. Several times, ice walls collapsed and nearly trapped their drilling machines. After 18 hours of continuous work, they broke through into an artificial chamber. "I'm reading atmosphere inside," Zara announced. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, suitable for most coalition species. Temperature is just above freezing." "The facility's environmental systems are still running after all these years," Vex Hari whispered. "The humans built things to last. They descended through the tunnel in environmental suits, their lights cutting through the darkness. The chamber they entered was massive, carved from solid rock and lined with strange metal panels. Everything was covered in a thin layer of frost, but the basic structure looked intact. "Motion sensors are active," Thex reported. "Something knows. We're here." A panel in the wall suddenly glowed with soft blue light. Text appeared in several human languages, followed by what their translators identified as English. "Welcome to Project Lazarus Deep Storage Facility Alpha. Please state your authorization codes." Vex Hari stepped forward. "We don't have authorization codes. We're not human." The panel flickered. "Non-human species detected. Please state the nature of your visit." "We need your help. Humanity's allies are under attack. We need to wake up." The enhanced soldiers. "Analyzing request. Please wait." The wait felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. Finally, the panel responded. "Request approved under Emergency Protocol 7. Coalition forces are authorized to revive Lazarus Battalion personnel for defensive operations." Lights began coming on throughout the facility, revealing corridors that stretched away in several directions. The air recycling system hummed to life, clearing away the frost and bringing the temperature up to comfortable levels. "This way to the suspension chambers," the computer voice continued. A pathway lit up on the floor, leading deeper into the facility. They followed the lights through corridors lined with empty equipment racks and abandoned workstations. Everything suggested this place had once been filled with people, but they had left in a hurry. The suspension chamber was enormous. Hundreds of cylindrical pods filled the space, arranged in neat rows like sleeping giants. Most of the pods were dark and empty, but 47 showed signs of active operation. Soft lights pulsed along their sides, and readouts displayed vital signs. 47 active subjects, the computer reported. All vitals stable, ready for revival sequence. "These are the enhanced soldiers?" Thex approached one of the pods. Through the transparent top, he could see a human figure floating in clear liquid. The person looked young, maybe 25 years old, with short dark hair and a face that might have been beautiful if not for the network of surgical scars along the jaw and temple. Enhanced Super Soldier Designation, Lazarus 07. Captain Sarah Chen, Active Camouflage Specialist. Genetic modifications include enhanced muscle density, improved neural response time, and active camouflage skin cells. Cybernetic modifications include tactical computer interface and combat drug delivery system. Vex Hari felt her heart racing. Active camouflage? She can turn invisible? Partial invisibility. Subject can match surrounding colors and textures for approximately 30 minutes before system overheats. What about the others? The computer began listing specifications for each sleeping soldier. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, improved reflexes, resistance to toxins, ability to function without sleep for extended periods. Each enhancement sounded impossible, but the detailed medical records suggested they were all real. "We should start with one," Thex suggested. "Test the revival process before waking up all of them." "Agreed. Computer, begin revival sequence for Captain Chen." Warning, subject has been in suspension for 89 years, 4 months, 12 days. Revival may result in disorientation, memory loss, or psychological trauma. Understood. Begin. Revival. The pod containing Captain Chen began to change. The liquid drained away, replaced by warm air. Mechanical arms moved inside the chamber, removing monitoring cables and breathing apparatus. The woman's body began to move slightly as her systems came back online. Heart rate increasing. Brain activity normal. Muscle response positive. Revival. Sequence at 70% completion. Vex Hari watched in fascination as color returned to the human's pale skin. The surgical scars along her face began to fade, as if her body was healing itself. Revival sequence complete. Subject is conscious. Pod opened with a soft hiss. Captain Chen's eyes snapped open and she sat up quickly, looking around the chamber with alert, intelligent eyes. When she saw Vex Hari and the others, her expression became dangerous. "Who are you? Where is my unit?" Her voice was rough from long disuse, but there was steel in it. "Captain Chen, I'm Dr. Vex Hari of the Galactic Coalition. You've been asleep for almost 90 years. 90 years? Chen swung her legs out of the pod and stood up. She was shorter than Vex Hari had expected, but there was something about the way she moved that suggested lethal capability. What happened? To the war? Did we win against the AI? Vex Hari exchanged glances with Vex. "Captain, humanity lost that war. Your species went extinct." Chen was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice was very calm. "How many humans are left?" "As far as we know, the 47 people in this facility are the only survivors." "I see." Chen looked around the chamber at the other pods. "And you woke me up because we need your help. The galaxy is under attack by something called the Void Swarm. Our combined fleets can't stop them. Billions of people are going to die unless we find a way to fight back. And you think a few dozen enhanced humans can make a difference against an enemy that your entire galactic civilization can't handle?" Vex stepped forward. "Captain, we've studied the human military records. Your species had a talent for warfare that we've never seen before. You understand conflict in ways that we don't." Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We understood it so well that we wiped ourselves out. But not before creating soldiers like you. The enhancement process, the training, the tactical knowledge. It's all still here." Chen walked slowly around the chamber, studying the other pods. "Enhanced soldiers, super soldiers. Do you know what that really means?" "It means you're stronger and faster than normal humans," Vex Hari said. "It means we're weapons, living weapons created by desperate people who ran out of other options." Chen stopped in front of a pod containing a large man with multiple surgical scars. "That's Marcus Rodriguez. They rebuilt his bones with metal alloy and gave him the strength to punch through tank armor. He volunteered because the AI killed his children." She moved to another pod. "Yuki Tanaka, accelerated healing factor. She can recover from wounds that would kill anyone else. She volunteered because she watched the AI turn her parents into cybernetic slaves." "Captain," Vex said gently, "whatever pain your people suffered, we don't want your species to be forgotten. Help us save the galaxy, and humanity's legacy will live on." Chen turned to look at him. For a moment, her face showed the full weight of loss and grief that came with being possibly the last member of her species. Then her expression hardened. "Computer, begin revival sequence for the entire battalion. Warning, mass revival may strain facility power systems. Override safety protocols. Emergency activation. Acknowledged. Beginning mass revival sequence." Throughout the chamber, pods began to activate. 46 more enhanced humans started the journey from sleep back to life. "Why?" Vex Hari asked. "Because we couldn't save our own species, but maybe we can save yours." Chen looked at her with eyes that had seen too much war and loss. "Besides, we were created to fight impossible battles against overwhelming odds. Sounds like nothing has changed." As the other pods continued their revival sequences, Chen walked to a weapons locker and began pulling out equipment that looked far too advanced for human technology of 90 years ago. "How long until your Void Swarm reaches Coalition space?" "They're already here. They're attacking the Altair system as we speak." Chen smiled, and for the first time, there was genuine warmth in her expression. It was the smile of a soldier who had finally found a worthy fight. Then we'd better hurry. The coalition fleet above Altair looked impressive until you realized how badly they were losing. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the tactical display with professional interest. Red dots, representing swarm. Bioships outnumbered the blue dots of coalition forces by almost 30-1. It should have been a massacre, but the coalition was holding defensive positions around the planet, using their superior technology to maintain distance. "They're fighting the wrong kind of war," she said quietly. Admiral Corvash's 4 arms gestured at the display. "Our weapons can penetrate their armor at long range. If we maintain formation and coordinate our fire, you'll run out of ammunition." "Before you kill half of them," Chen interrupted, "and they'll adapt to your weapons. They probably already have." It had been 3 days since the Lazarus Battalion joined the coalition fleet. 3 days of awkward introductions, shocked stares, and increasingly desperate briefings about the Void Swarm. The aliens treated the enhanced humans like dangerous curiosities. They were fascinated by human capabilities, but terrified by human methods. "Captain Chen," Admiral Corvash said with barely controlled patience, "these tactics have served the Coalition well for over 2 centuries. Against other civilized species, maybe. But the swarm isn't civilized. They're not playing by your rules." Chen pointed to a cluster of red dots that had broken away from the main swarm formation. "See that group? They're not engaging your forces. They're heading for the civilian evacuation ships. Our escort squadrons will protect the evacuees." "Will they?" Chen watched as the red dots moved past the coalition defensive line without engaging. "Your people are too honorable. You expect the enemy to fight you directly, but the swarm doesn't care about honor. They care about winning." Before the Admiral could respond, alarms began blaring. The main display zoomed in on the civilian evacuation zone, where dozens of transport ships were fleeing the planet. The swarm bioships had reached them. "All units, move to protect the civilians," Admiral Corvash ordered. "No," Chen said firmly. "That's exactly what they want you to do. The moment you break formation to chase those raiders, the main swarm force will punch through your defensive line." "We cannot abandon civilians. Then let us handle the raiders." Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez stepped up beside Chen. At 7 feet tall, with arms like tree trunks, he made the alien bridge crew nervous just by existing. "Captain, the Hammerhead is ready for launch." Chen nodded. The Hammerhead was a modified Coalition assault shuttle rebuilt with human engineering principles. It was faster, tougher, and carried more firepower than anything its size had a right to. "Admiral, give me 12 hours. Let my team deal with the raiders while your fleet holds the line. 12 humans against 1,000 swarm bioships? 47 humans. And we don't need to destroy all of them. We just need to make them stop." Corvash studied the tactical display. More civilian ships were under attack. Her defense line was holding, but barely. If she moved ships to protect the evacuees, the main swarm force would break through and overrun everything. "Go," she said finally. Chen and Rodriguez ran for the shuttle bay, where the rest of Lazarus Battalion was waiting. 45 enhanced. Humans in advanced combat armor, carrying weapons that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka looked up from her equipment check. "Orders, Captain?" "We're going hunting." The Hammerhead launched from the command ship like a metal bullet, accelerating at speeds that would have killed normal humans. Inside, the Lazarus Battalion prepared for combat with the efficiency of people who had done this many times before. "Target analysis," Chen called out. Corporal David Kim, their electronic warfare specialist, worked at a control station covered in displays. "Swarm raiders are using a standard pack formation, 12 primary bioships with escort drones. They're focusing on the largest civilian transports first." "Weaknesses?" "The bioships are tough, but they're not well coordinated when separated from the main hive mind. Kill the lead ship, and the others will fall back to regroup." "Then that's what we do. Rodriguez, take Alpha Team and board the lead ship. Tanaka, Beta Team handles the escorts. Everyone else with me." The Hammerhead closed distance with the swarm raiders at impossible speed. The bioships looked like giant insects crossed with spacecraft, all twisted metal and pulsing organic components. They were busy tearing apart a civilian transport when the human shuttle appeared among them. "Weapons free," Chen ordered. The Hammerhead's modified weapon systems opened fire. Energy beams designed by human military engineers cut through swarm armor like it was paper. 3 bioships exploded in seconds. The remaining swarm ships turned to engage this new threat, but the humans were already moving. The Hammerhead split apart into smaller units, each carrying a team of enhanced soldiers. Directly into combat, Rodriguez's Alpha team smashed through the hull of the lead bioship and disappeared inside. Within minutes, explosions began tearing through the creature's body as the enhanced humans fought their way toward its control center. Tanaka's Beta team engaged the escort drones in direct combat, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to dodge. Weapons fire that would have killed anyone else. She moved like a dancer, her body healing from minor wounds even as she fought. Chen led the remaining soldiers in a direct assault on the largest bioship. They cut through its defenses with weapons and tactics that the swarm had never encountered before. Where coalition forces fought with discipline and coordination, the humans fought with creativity and controlled violence. This is how humans wage war, Chen said into her communicator as she planted explosive charges throughout the bioship's interior. We don't just defeat the enemy, we make them afraid to fight us again. The lead bioship exploded from the inside out. The remaining swarm raiders, suddenly without coordination, began falling back toward the main force, but they were too slow. The enhanced humans picked them off one by one, using speed and firepower to overwhelm creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for years. Mission complete, Chen reported as the last raider ship died. All civilian transports are secure. But when the Hammerhead returned to the command ship, the celebration was brief. The main swarm force had used the distraction to probe the coalition defensive line. Several ships had been lost, and gaps were appearing in the formation. Your tactics worked, Captain, Admiral Corvash admitted. But the cost was high. We cannot sustain losses like this. You're still fighting their kind of war, Chen replied. Long range, defensive positions, coordinated formations. That might work against the swarm's main force, but it won't win the war. What do you suggest? Chen looked at the tactical display, studying the massive swarm formation. Thousands of bioships in complex patterns, moving like a single organism. It was the kind of target that coalition forces would chip away at for weeks, trading casualties for marginal gains. We go after their command structure. The swarm doesn't have traditional command ships. They operate as a hive mind. Every hive mind has nodes, creatures or systems that coordinate the others. Take out enough nodes, and the hive starts to break apart. Rodriguez joined the conversation. Captain, our intelligence suggests the swarm command nodes are protected by hundreds of bioships. It would be a suicide mission. Maybe for normal humans. But we're not normal humans, are we? The other Lazarus Battalion members looked at each other. They had all volunteered for the enhancement process knowing it would probably kill them. They had all accepted that their lives would be measured in missions rather than years. What's the plan? Tanaka asked. We infiltrate the swarm formation, find their primary command nodes, and we kill them all. Admiral Corvash's scales darkened with concern. Captain, that's impossible. Even with your enhancements, you're talking about fighting through thousands of enemy ships. Admiral, my species, spent 30 years fighting a war we couldn't win. We learned a few things about impossible odds. Chen looked around the bridge at the alien faces watching her. Give us 48 hours. If we can't break the swarm's coordination, then you fall back and try your way. And if you don't come back? Chen smiled the same dangerous smile she had shown in the cryogenic facility. Then at least we'll die doing what we were made for. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Outside the ship, the battle continued. Coalition forces traded shots with swarm bioships, while civilian transports fled toward safety. It was a holding action at best, and everyone knew it. 48 hours, Corvash said finally. But I want constant updates. The moment your mission fails, I'm pulling the fleet back. Understood. Rodriguez prepped the infiltration gear. Tanaka, I want detailed scans of the swarm formation. Kim, start working on their communication frequencies. As the Lazarus Battalion prepared for what might be their final mission, Chen stood at the observation window and watched the battle outside. She thought about Earth, dead and cold now for almost 90 years. She thought about humanity, reduced to 47 enhanced soldiers fighting for aliens who barely understood them. But mostly she thought about the war they were about to fight. A war that would determine whether consciousness survived in the galaxy, or whether the void swarm would consume everything. It was, she realized, exactly the kind of fight that humans were born for. The infiltration mission began at 0300 ship time, when the swarm formation was at its densest. Captain Chen led 12 enhanced humans in a modified stealth shuttle, flying directly into the heart of enemy territory. "Passive sensors only," she whispered into her communicator. "The moment they detect us, this mission becomes a lot more difficult." The swarm bioships were even more horrifying up close. Each one looked like it had grown rather than been built, with pulsing organic surfaces and mechanical parts fused together in ways that hurt to look at. Some were the size of coalition destroyers. Others were massive creatures that could have swallowed entire cities. "Command node identified," reported Corporal Kim from his sensor station. "Large bioship at the formation center. It's coordinating movement patterns for at least 3,000 surrounding vessels. That's our target. Take us in." The shuttle wove between swarm ships like a fish swimming through coral. Several times they passed so close to enemy hulls that Chen could see individual weapon ports and sensor clusters. But the swarm seemed focused on the coalition fleet ahead of them, not looking for threats from within their own formation. They docked with the command ship through a breach that looked like it might have been a docking port once before the swarm converted the vessel into something organic. The interior was even worse than the exterior. "This used to be a coalition heavy cruiser," Kim said, reading his scanner. "The swarm captured it and changed it." The corridors were lined with pulsing tissue that might once have been metal walls. Organic tubes carried strange fluids between sections of the ship. Everything smelled of decay and wrongness. "Stay focused," Chen ordered. "We're here to kill the command node, not sightsee." They moved through the ship with enhanced stealth systems activated, their skin shifting colors to match the surrounding environment. Normal humans would have been detected immediately, but the Lazarus Battalion had been designed for missions exactly like this. The command center was a nightmare of biological and mechanical components fused together. At its heart sat something that might have once been a living creature, now connected to the ship's systems by thousands of cables and tubes. It pulsed with alien intelligence, coordinating the movements of thousands of swarm vessels. "That's the node," Chen whispered. "Plant the charges. We have 10 minutes before—" Alarms began wailing throughout the ship. Emergency lights bathed, everything in red. The command node's eyes opened and focused directly on Chen. "It knows we're here," Rodriguez said. "So much for stealth." "Kim, how long until the charges are ready?" "5 minutes, Captain." "We don't have 5 minutes." Chen checked her weapon. "All right, people. Time to do this the hard way." The swarm defenders came at them like a wave of living nightmares. Creatures that were part machine, part insect, part something worse. They moved with inhuman speed and coordination, but they had never faced enhanced humans before. Rodriguez punched through a charging defender with enough force to shatter its cybernetic spine. Tanaka moved like lightning, her enhanced reflexes letting her dodge attacks that came from multiple directions. The other soldiers formed a defensive perimeter around Kim while he worked on the explosive charges. "Charge is armed!" Kim called out. 30 seconds to detonation! Move! Everyone out!" They fought their way back through corridors that were now filled with defenders. The swarm had mobilized the entire ship to stop them, but they were too late. The enhanced humans reached their shuttle just as Kim's charges exploded. The command node died in a burst of fire and alien screaming. Throughout the swarm formation, thousands of bioships suddenly lost coordination. They began drifting, their movements becoming random and confused. "Target destroyed," Chen reported to Admiral Korvash. "Swarm coordination is disrupted." "Confirmed. We're seeing massive confusion in their formation. Several ships are colliding with each other." But the victory was temporary. Even as Chen's team escaped from the dying command ship, new nodes were taking control. The swarm adapted quickly, establishing backup command systems and restoring order to their formation. "Another node coming online," Kim reported. "Different ship, same function." Then we hit that one, too. The second infiltration was harder. The swarm was ready for them now, with defenders patrolling their formation and sensors sweeping for intruders. Chen lost 3 soldiers getting to the target and 2 more during the fighting inside, but they destroyed the second command node, and then a third. and a fourth. Each success came at a higher cost. The enhanced humans were taking casualties they couldn't afford. Their equipment was wearing down. Their bodies, pushed beyond normal limits for days, were beginning to fail. "Captain," Tanaka said during their 6th mission briefing. Her healing factor was working overtime, but even she looked exhausted. "We're down to 31 people. At this rate, we won't have enough soldiers left to complete the mission." Chen looked around at what remained of Lazarus Battalion. They had started with 47 enhanced humans. Now, she was looking at 31 tired, wounded warriors who had been fighting non-stop for 3 days. "The swarm is adapting faster than we're destroying nodes," Rodriguez added. "They're creating new command structures as fast as we can eliminate the old ones." "And they're learning our tactics," Kim said. "Each infiltration is harder than the last. They know what to expect now." Chen studied the tactical display. The swarm formation was still massive, still coordinated despite their attacks. They had managed to disrupt enemy operations and buy time for coalition evacuations, but they hadn't broken the swarm's ability to wage war. "Captain," Admiral Korvash's voice came through the communicator. "We're detecting a new development. The swarm is massing for a final assault on our defensive line. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen soon." "Understood." Chen looked at her soldiers. "Options?" "We could try hitting multiple nodes simultaneously," Tanaka suggested. "Split into smaller teams, attack several targets at once." "We don't have enough people for that strategy," Rodriguez replied, "and smaller teams would be more vulnerable." "What about their primary command structure?" Kim asked. "Every hive mind has a central controller, something that coordinates the nodes themselves." "You're talking about their flagship, the biggest bioship in the formation." Chen called up detailed scans of the swarm fleet. At its very center was a creature so large it could have housed a city. Intelligence estimates suggest it contains the swarm's primary coordination entity. "A suicide mission," Rodriguez said simply. "Probably. The flagship is protected by hundreds of escort ships. Even if we reach it, we'd never get out alive." "So, we don't plan on getting out alive." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what Rodriguez was suggesting. A final mission with no expectation of survival. One last strike to cripple the swarm's ability to coordinate their forces. "There's something else," Chen said quietly. "Dr. Vex Hari found references to our enhancement process in the human archives. The aliens are debating whether to use our genetic templates to create their own super soldiers." "Enhanced aliens," Tanaka mused. "That could work. It could also be a disaster. The enhancement process killed 90% of human volunteers. Other species might not be compatible at all. And even if it works, do we want to spread this kind of technology? Do we want other species to become what we became?" Chen thought about Earth again, about the wars that had driven humanity to create soldiers like them, about the choices that had led to their species' extinction. "That's not our decision to make," Rodriguez said. "We're soldiers, not politicians. Our job is to fight this war. Let the survivors decide what comes next." "The survivors," Chen repeated, "assuming there are any." Admiral Korvash's voice came through the communicator again. "Captain, swarm forces are beginning their final assault. We need whatever help you can provide." Chen looked at the tactical display one more time. The swarm flagship sat at the center of the enemy formation like a mechanical god, coordinating the destruction of galactic civilization. It was the kind of target that required everything they had left to give. "All right, people, this is it. We're going after the flagship." "Rules of engagement?" Kim asked. "There are no rules. We go in, we find whatever's controlling the swarm, and we kill it, no matter what it costs." "And if we don't make it out?" Chen smiled the same dangerous smile that had become her trademark. "Then we make sure our deaths mean something. We've already outlived our species by 90 years. Time to make it count." They prepared for the mission with the thoroughness of people who knew it would be their last. Enhanced weapons, upgraded armor, enough explosives to level a city. They checked and rechecked every piece of equipment, said their goodbyes, and recorded final messages for the alien species they barely knew but had chosen to protect. "Captain," Tanaka said as they boarded their assault shuttle for the final time, "do you think humanity would be proud of what we've become?" Chen considered the question. They were the last remnants of a species that had destroyed itself through war. They were living weapons created by desperate people facing extinction. They were killers and soldiers and enhanced human beings who had forgotten what it meant to be simply human. I think humanity would be proud that we chose to fight for something bigger than ourselves, she said finally. The swarm flagship was a nightmare made real. As their shuttle approached the massive bioship, Captain Chen could see that it wasn't just large, it was alive. The hull pulsed with organic rhythms, and weapon ports opened and closed like breathing mouths. The thing was easily 50 kilometers long, with smaller bioships attached to its surface like parasites feeding off a whale. "Jesus," whispered Sergeant Rodriguez, forgetting that most of his teammates had never heard that particular human oath. "How do we even fight something like that?" "Same way we fight everything else," Chen replied. "We find its weak spots and we hit them hard." Their modified shuttle slipped between the escort ships, using every stealth system the humans and coalition engineers had been able to design. The enhanced soldiers inside prepared their equipment with the calm efficiency of people who had already accepted death. "Scanning for entry points," reported Corporal Kim. "The flagship's hull is heavily armored, but I'm detecting what might be docking bays near the central mass." "Might be?" "With respect, Captain, this thing doesn't follow any design principles I've ever seen. It's like someone took a space station, crossed it with a biological organism, and then let it grow for 1,000 years. They found an opening that looked like it had once been a launch bay, now converted into something that resembled a mouth lined with mechanical teeth. The shuttle slipped inside just as those teeth began to close. The interior of the flagship was worse than anything they had seen before. Corridors twisted in impossible directions, lined with surfaces that were part metal, part flesh, part something else entirely. The air was thick with the smell of decay and ozone. 31 enhanced humans against a ship the size of a city, Lieutenant Tanaka muttered as they moved deeper into the structure. "I've had better odds." "We don't need to clear the whole ship," Chen reminded her team. "We just need to find the primary control center and destroy it." They moved through the flagship like ghosts, their enhanced abilities allowing them to avoid most of the ship's defenses. But as they penetrated deeper, the resistance grew stronger. The swarm knew they were there, and creatures that defied description began hunting them through the twisted corridors. "Contact front!" Rodriguez called out, as something that looked like a mechanical spider the size of a truck rounded a corner ahead of them. His enhanced strength allowed him to tear through its armor with his bare hands, but more were coming. "Kim, how much farther to the control center?" 2 kilometers, Captain. But we're going to have to go through what looks like the ship's main defensive hub." They fought their way forward, losing soldiers with each engagement. Private Martinez fell to something that shot acid from multiple limbs. Corporal Vega was torn apart by creatures that moved too fast for normal eyes to follow. Each death hurt, but they couldn't stop to mourn. The control center, when they finally reached it, was beyond anything their worst nightmares could have prepared them for. It was a vast chamber filled with organic machinery and streams of data, flowing through biological conduits. At its heart, suspended in a web of cables and feeding tubes, was something that might once have been alive. The prime node was massive, easily 20 meters tall, with a body that combined insect, machine, and something else entirely. Its eyes, when they opened, held an intelligence that was older than most of the species in the galaxy. "So," it spoke in a voice like grinding metal, "the dead humans have come to play soldier one last time." "We're here to stop you," Chen said, raising her weapon. "Stop me?" The creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Little weapon, I am the swarm. I am the hunger that consumes galaxies. I am the end of all things that think they matter." "You're a parasite," Chen replied. "And we're the cure." The prime node's laughter stopped. "You are the remnants of a failed species. Your people destroyed themselves because they could not control their own violent nature. What makes you think you can succeed where your entire civilization failed? Because we learned from our mistakes." The battle that followed was unlike anything Chen had ever experienced. The prime node didn't just fight with weapons and physical attacks. It assaulted their minds, showing them visions of Earth burning, of humanity's final moments, of the futility of their current mission. But the enhanced soldiers of Lazarus Battalion had been forged in humanity's darkest hour. They had watched their species die, had accepted that they would be the last of their kind, and had chosen to fight anyway. The Prime Node's psychological attacks found no purchase in minds that had already endured the worst possible loss. Rodriguez charged the creature directly, his enhanced strength allowing him to tear through its defensive systems. Tanaka moved like lightning, her healing factor keeping her alive through wounds that would have killed anyone else. Kim worked frantically to plant explosive charges throughout the control center, while the others fought. But the cost was enormous. One by one, the enhanced humans fell. Rodriguez went down fighting 3 mechanical tentacles at once, his bones finally breaking under stresses that would have crushed normal metal. Tanaka's healing factor failed when acid ate through her enhanced tissue faster than she could regenerate. In the end, only Chen and Kim remained, facing a creature that seemed barely damaged despite their best efforts. "Your weapons cannot harm me," the Prime Node said, its voice filled with ancient amusement. "I have consumed the knowledge of 1,000 species. I have adapted to every form of attack your galaxy can produce." "Maybe," Chen said, breathing heavily. "But you've never faced humans before." She looked at Kim, who nodded and held up the detonator for their remaining explosives. "Not enough to destroy the Prime Node, but enough for something else." "What are you doing?" the creature demanded. "Something your perfect adaptation can't account for," Chen said. "We're choosing to lose." She activated her suit's self-destruct sequence, something that had been built into every piece of Lazarus Battalion equipment. Kim did the same. All around the control center, the bodies of their fallen comrades began to glow as their equipment prepared to overload. "You cannot destroy me with conventional explosives," the Prime Node said, but there was something like uncertainty in its voice now. "We're not trying to destroy you," Chen said. "We're trying to teach you something." The explosions came simultaneously. Dozens of enhanced human suits detonating at once, their power sources overloading in a cascade reaction that tore through the flagship's systems. The Prime Node screamed as the energy surge disrupted its connection to the greater swarm. But Chen's real target wasn't the creature itself, it was the biological network that connected it to every other swarm unit in the galaxy. As the explosions damaged those connections, she transmitted a final message through every communication channel she could access. It wasn't a tactical report or a battle cry. It was something much more dangerous to a hive-mind entity. It was the story of humanity's choice. The decision to create enhanced soldiers not for conquest, but for protection. The choice to sacrifice themselves for species they had never met. The knowledge that sometimes losing was the only way to win. The Prime Node, connected to millions of swarm units across the galaxy, couldn't filter out the transmission fast enough. The concept of willing self-sacrifice for others' benefits spread through the hive mind like a virus, creating confusion and conflict in a system designed for perfect unity. Chen's last sight was of the Prime Node thrashing in its web of cables, no longer the absolute controller of the swarm, but something confused and divided against itself. Then the final explosion claimed her, and Captain Sarah Chen joined the rest of her species in whatever came after life. But her sacrifice had consequences. Throughout the galaxy, swarm units began fighting each other as the concept of self-sacrifice created competing imperatives in their shared consciousness. Some units tried to protect others. Some tried to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. The perfect unity that had made them unstoppable began to tear itself apart. Dr. Vex Hari watched from the Coalition command ship as the massive swarm formation above Altair suddenly erupted into chaos. Bioships that had moved with perfect coordination began attacking each other. The disciplined assault on Coalition positions dissolved into random violence. "What's happening?" Admiral Korvash demanded. "The humans did it," Vex Hari whispered, staring at the displays. "They found a way to turn the swarm's greatest strength into a weakness." The war continued for several more months, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The swarm, divided against itself, could not maintain the coordination necessary for their style of warfare. One by one, their fleets were defeated by Coalition forces that finally had hope. Years later, a memorial was built on Kepler 442b, above the facility where the Lazarus Battalion had slept for nearly a century. Beings from across the galaxy came to pay their respects to the species that had saved them all. The inscription was written in dozens of languages, but its meaning was the same in all of them. Here sleep the last humans. They woke to save us all. They taught us that the greatest victory sometimes requires the greatest sacrifice. Let no species be forgotten who chooses to fight for others rather than themselves. And in the deepest archives of the Coalition, carefully preserved and heavily debated,